Everybody calm down. All of those doomsday predictions you're currently hearing about how CT scanning is going to destroy the hobby, I'm here to tell you it's really not that big of a deal. I'll explain why next. Hello, sports card investors, and welcome to another episode of Cards on the Table. And Doug and Teapot, I'm sure like most of the sports card hobby out there, you guys haven't been able to get any sleep this last week because the thought of CT scanning boxes and packs has probably kept you up toiling all night long like it has so many people in the hobby. But guys, I'm going to tell you right now why it really isn't that big of a deal, and you can go back and get some nice restful sleep again this evening. Now look, this has come back into the hobby cycle, into the hobby news cycle, because this past Sunday on the Sports Card Madness YouTube channel, they had an interview with one of the guys who's behind one of these CT scanning companies. They're actually selling their services where you can send them a box or a pack of sports cards or Pokemon cards, and they'll actually CT scan it and tell you what cards are inside. Now, it doesn't work with every single type of card. It doesn't really work with vintage, but it does work with a lot of ultra-modern, almost all ultra-modern cards. And this is people freaked out again. There's been YouTube videos this week with titles like Wax is Dead, and this is the biggest threat ever for the hobby. And I am here to say that is absolute nonsense. Now, look, I do want to say first off the bat, I have talked to leadership at Fanatics about this. They are taking this seriously, and in fact, they are looking for solutions long-term on how to either prevent this or detect if a box is being scanned. So they're clued in on this. But my opinion on all of this, guys, is this is completely overblown right now for a few very, very important reasons. First of all, the boxes that 99% of collectors buy, Topps Chrome, Prism, Bowman, Optic, Mosaic, Stadium Club, those types of boxes, no one's ever going to scan those boxes. It doesn't make any sense to scan those boxes for a couple of different reasons. First of all, the cost to do it. This CT scanning company is charging $75 per pack. If you want them to scan an entire box, you have to actually email for a price, but that's going to set you back at least hundreds of dollars for a box. That doesn't make any sense. Even if it was a more valuable box of Prism or, an older box or something like that, the super big hits in that product, the ones that really make you, oh, that box is incredibly valuable, they show up so infrequently. You would have to scan probably hundreds of boxes before you find the one that's got the one of one, the superfractor, or that gold out of 10 that you really want. It's not worth it. It's not worth it from a money perspective. It's not worth it from a time perspective. That's not going to happen. With Prism, Topps Chrome, those types of boxes, not going to happen. The higher end of the market, people are worried about, I can scan Topps Dynasty, I can scan National Treasures, I can scan Flawless. Okay, it's maybe more cost effective. There's more of a reason to scan those particular boxes, but people are worried that breakers are like doing this and they're going to steal the good boxes or something like that. This is how this works. We break a ton of product here at Cards HQ. The boxes show up, shipped to us from Topps, from Panini. They show up like a day or two before release day. Oftentimes, we're like waiting to get the box so that we can then, start breaking it the following day. We're hoping it doesn't get delayed by a day or we won't have it on release day. There's no time for us to get the box and then turn around and ship them off to go get CT scanned and wait that delay. And even if we wanted to do that, that would be an awful business decision, in part because of the fact that the number one opportunity to sell a new product is on release day. You want those products in your hands. You want to be breaking them on release day. You don't want to be shipping them off and waiting 2 weeks to get scanned things back. Even if you find some big hits, you're going to kill all your profit on that. It doesn't make any sense. There's no way you can do that. So then people are going to say like, well, what if the breaking company has their own CT scanner, right? Well, here's another thing. As a breaking company, You want your customers to get the hits. You're not going to CT scan boxes and hold back certain hits, because ultimately the way you make your money is not by trying to steal a card or two from a box. The way you make your money is by everyone in the hobby knowing you get the big hits and they see it on camera, so then they want to be part of your breaks, and then you break more product, and that's how you make money. So the idea that these companies have these big conspiracies going with CT scanners and the whole thing, I am not buying into it. I am not buying into it. Now, the one area of the hobby that I think people do, they should have a little bit of concern about is when it comes to old, very high-end boxes that you could use the technology to detect. 2003 Exquisite Basketball. Okay, if you want to buy a box of 2003 Exquisite Basketball off the secondary market, you have to realize maybe that box has been scanned. 2017 Flawless Football, if you're going to try to go hunt for Patrick Mahomes RPAs. Okay, be careful with those boxes. But the truth of the matter is that 99.9% of the people watching this show, they're not going to go buy 2003 Exquisite Basketball or 2017 Flawless Football from, eBay or wherever those boxes are sold. So this really, in my opinion, is much ado about very little. It's not nothing. I mean, yeah, it's not great that people can scan and all this stuff, but like the amount of hype, how this thing has been blown up. When I think about it critically, I think this thing has just been blown way out of proportion. And in actuality, there's really not that much danger to 99% of the collectors out there, especially those who like me and most of the customers in Cards HQ, like to rip an occasional box of Topps Chrome after it comes out. You are perfectly fine. You got nothing to worry about, in my opinion. Teapot, you agree? You disagree? You think I'm off base here? I'm done with my rant. What do you have to say?
That was a lot of words, most of which I disagree with.
Oh, wow.
That was a lot of words. Okay, I will agree that for a product like Topps Chrome, this stuff right after it comes out in release, this is largely not problematic. That's about the only thing that I agree on. And what the problem is the longer it goes on, the more problematic it becomes. This may not have been problematic when 2009 Topps Basketball came out in 2009. It sure as heck is problematic now for 2009 Topps Basketball when the Steph Curry Superfractor has yet to show up on planet Earth.
But those boxes sell for $20,000 a box. Are you buying one of those realistically?
That's exactly my point. Right. Are you buying that now that it can be CT scanned? The value of a sealed wax portfolio is completely annihilated now, completely dead on any high-end product. It's completely gone. So holding sealed wax, whether it's flagship entry level or not, long-term becomes incredibly problematic. Secondly,
which, by the way, I will say, I had a conversation with Dr. Beckett, Dr. James Beckett, a few years ago. He said, and it's kind of a point that's always stuck with me. He said that investors who buy and hold sealed wax, which I have done, and I have done over the years for sure, he says that's not being true to the hobby, because the purpose of wax is to get the boxes open so that the cards get out in circulation.
It's the essence of sports cards.
So maybe it's a good thing.
No, it's not a good thing.
Maybe it's a good thing that these remaining few boxes will now get opened and the cards will get dispersed into the supply.
That's the same jacked up logic that the guy who bait and switched us on the video, Sports Card Madness, said when he was going to drop names and made all these promises and then didn't give us any of that information, apparently because he was told at the last minute he couldn't do it. And if that's the case, I guess I feel bad that he hyped us up and switched us over to that video so much. But this is not a good thing. The mystique of the hobby is sports cards, and it shouldn't be scanning the contents of sports cards to see what's inside. So as product goes along, the value proposition of that, I think, is nearly eviscerated. Like anything that could, as a flagship product like Topps or Prism in 2012, have the potential to grow from $100 to $20,000 a box is gone now. Because why would I buy that product? Why would I buy 1997 metal basketball at $23,000 a box when somebody's probably already scanned it? Or should, frankly, if they think they can have a green Michael Jordan PMG inside that product. You said there's no time to scan flawless right after, but then you brought up the point that maybe these companies have their own CT scanning machine. Of course they would. If I'm running an operation that does oodles and oodles of boxes, 1 day is plenty of time. 5 hours is plenty of time. Now, to the point
that's assuming
to the point that they don't want to hold these cards back. Of course they don't. My whole argument a couple of years ago, it's been almost 2 years since we brought this up about loaded boxes and all the allegations. I was very much of the camp that I didn't think the manufacturers had anything to do with trying to get people loaded boxes because of the risk to their brand. But as a breaker, it's the wild, wild west. You're trying to separate yourself. So when these breakers come out and go, where else but, and then insert their branding company, and they hit Nebula, 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 Nebula of the top 4 chases in a product, or all 3 of the key Flawless Logo Man, all 3 of the NT Logo Mans, and 2 of the Nebulas and 2 of the Prism Blacks of the top rookies in the product. I said it then, I'm doubling down on it. It is a statistical impossibility. It's not possible. It's not only improbable, it is not possible. And if this were ever subpoenaed to court, and a court in discovery said, you, breaker, need to tell us how many boxes you released, and you, manufacturer, need to tell us how many boxes were produced, it could be proven with statistics and admissible in court that there was fraud, that it is a statistical impossibility. That has been done in the past. There are court cases where that's happened. I wrote down the name somewhere and now I can't find it in my notes, but that has happened and it could happen. Do you remember what my note was, my inscription, when people were asking us for our autos in the Dummies book at the National? I wrote, there's power in data. There's power in data. Of course these people would do it. I believe they would scan it. I believe people have been scanning, and I think this is massively problematic for high-end products. I think it's massively problematic for holding sealed wax for the long term, and I think it kills the mystique of the foundation of the hobby that Dr. Beckett was representing, which is the chase of what might be inside of the box, whether you hold it or not.
So you're saying that you think that braking companies are scanning boxes so that they could then find the ones that have the big hits and then open them for their customers?
To get it to their biggest customer, to a whale, keep your whales happy so they keep buying. You guys, I don't have to tell you how much people spend on brakes.
It is possible in certain circumstances.
To a family member?
I'm definitely not going to say that there's no braking company out there that hasn't attempted to do that, but I'm saying your argument completely discounts 2 major components. One is the ethics of people in the hobby. And I know there's shady stuff that goes on in the hobby, but I also know the owners of many of these braking companies. And I can assure you that many of these people are honorable people that are trying to build good businesses, to do good things.
I believe that. But then people,
not all of them, but many of them. So, I mean, I guarantee you we're never going to be doing that here inside Cards HQ.
The most common court case on Judge Judy and Wapner was family affairs, meaning I thought I could trust you. I didn't sign the contract. I thought you were, these aren't even family members. These are people you've met that made a good impression on you, who you like to think have integrity. And I'm not trying to call out anybody specifically, but I'm telling you there are statistical impossibilities that have happened that have made me just go, I don't know what happened. I don't know what the motivation is, but that's not possible. And this, to me, is the first thing we've seen surface that is the most plausible explanation about what's going on.
I also think you are completely discounting the fact that there would be whistleblowers. If it was that large, widespread of a conspiracy, if all these different braking companies had CT scanners in the back room and people were getting the shipment from UPS and running it out the door and CT scanning. Again, I'm not saying that none of them are doing it. Could you convince me that 1 or 2 of them are using this? Yeah, you probably could.
I've seen screenshots.
Is it affecting 99% of collectors out there? No, I don't believe that it is. And I also don't believe that there are that many companies that are doing it, because all it takes is one employee to get disgruntled and run off to tell somebody else, and word spreads and the news gets reported and all that kind of stuff. And then the company gets cut off from Topps and Topps and Panini, and their entire business evaporates just like that. I mean, there's a huge business risk in doing that. And the gain, as a business owner, the gain of attempting what you're talking about versus the potential loss of getting discovered and the fallout for that and losing your entire distribution and operation on the back of that, I don't know, Teapot. I'm not so sure. What do you think, Doug? What do you think about this whole thing?
I yield my remaining time to the gentleman. I think you guys both covered it pretty well, and we're probably 22 minutes over on this topic. So let me just say I'm Team Teapot on this one. He made most of my points, and he did so eloquently and researched better than I would have. So we'll leave it at that.
You guys are just like all the other chaotic people this week in the hobby.
I love conspiracies.
This makes me sick. I got very worked up without a time box on our Spitballing podcast and just unleashed. And I was frustrated about the bait and switch, and to the point about like the risk and everything and whistleblowers. I thought about that, and it's like it is hard when you think there would be whistleblowers. At the same time, we live in a society where whistleblowers end up just getting discounted and kicked to the curb, and people say they're crazy or you just have some vendetta against this company or whatever. We've seen breakers do shady things. Some of them have even cut up nebulas and mistreated and abused employees on camera, and people still buy with them, so it hasn't impacted their image. I've seen screenshots of people who have been threatened in the hobby for far less than this, literally physically threatened for dumb things. We're talking about millions of dollars, so somebody comes to you, hey, I'm gonna go blow the whistle on this. Oh yeah, here's what we're gonna do. Like, this is a lot of money, Jeff. It's a lot of money.
I go back to my original statement, which is this is not affecting 99% plus of the collectors out there. I just don't think that it is.
I think this is gonna keep becoming more and more accessible.
The average family that comes into Cards HQ on a Saturday and buys a box of, Topps Chrome out of our showcase and rips it over. It's that experience happens at hobby shops all over the country every single weekend, thousands of times over, and that is not being affected by this.
Yeah, that's the piece I agree with.
The news, literally, you're on a podcast where the headline is wax is dead.
Yeah.
There are podcasts that are saying this is the end of the hobby, and to that I say, give me a freaking break. Okay. All right. Let's see what the audience says. I'm sure we're going to get some commentary on it. Probably more people in the comments are going to agree with the two of you than agree with me, but I don't see it that way.
If it's not a big deal, why is Topps taking it so seriously?
They should take it seriously because of people like you that think it's a really big deal. That's why they need to take it seriously. That's why they need to take it seriously. No, I am happy. I'm sure they're going to come out with some marker on the box or something that, as the box has been scanned or that kind of thing. But in the meantime, I'll keep happily buying my boxes here because you know what? Who's not scanning? Cards HQ's not scanning anything.
I bought 3 boxes today.
See, there you go. I'm glad you trust us.
I do.
Even though you don't trust any other breaking company out there ever.
Well, I put it through the scanner in the
He didn't say he was going to. Yeah, he didn't say he was going to open them.
All right, let's talk about something on a little bit of a higher note. Arena Club, they are back at it again with another drop of their Grail cards, their Ruby packs, all of their slab packs tomorrow that have these crazy Grail cards in them. This past week, people pulled a CJ Stroud Prism Snakeskin, a LeBron Kaboom from 2015, and an Ohtani Topps High Tech Auto, number to 40, rookie auto, number to 40 of Ohtani's Black Label 10, BGS Black Label 10. Out of these packs, you can get your own slab pack when it drops tomorrow. 1 p.m. Pacific, or 1 p.m. Eastern, 10 a.m. Pacific on Friday. Download the Arena Club app and use promo code SCI for 10% off your first purchase. Again, the Arena Club app, promo code SCI. Guys, we've got 3 big mailbag topics to talk about today. We're going to dive right in. The first one, guys, let's talk bounty. As if we haven't had enough controversy so far on this episode and this topic this week. There was a certain drop of Topps Now product, which happened over the course of the last week here after the U.S. men's basketball team won the gold medal game on Sunday. Topps came out with a Topps Now card that featured LeBron James and Steph Curry and Kevin Durant. And then they shocked the world when they said that one person who buys that Topps Now card will also get a autographed version of the card where it's an on-card autograph from LeBron James, Steph Curry, and Kevin Durant in their USA basketball outfits, to which I said, I want that card. I put out a $100,000 bounty plus a VIP experience at Cards HQ. The internet melted down with most people telling me my bounty offer was ridiculously low. We'll see if that is the case or not. But what I know is that all of this hubbub over the product certainly helped it sell. Over 500,000 of those Topps Now cards sold. Gentlemen, what did you think of this whole promotion? Is this the way Topps should do Topps Now cards in the future? Teapot, I'm going to start. You know what? I'm going to start with you, Doug, because maybe you have a more rational view than Teapot does this afternoon.
Maybe we have the same view. Like
what
two smart guys.
What a feel-good moment for the hobby. At a time when the hobby is divided as it's ever been, as we just saw, we found a moment for everyone to get on common ground, a moment of unity where everyone can unanimously criticize your low ball offer, Jeff. My question is, if I were to hit this card, which admittedly would be difficult, I didn't buy any, but if I were to hit this card and I get this $100,000 from you, can I take the VIP experience in partial cash? I live 5 minutes away from you. I don't need the flight, the first class flight.
I'll connect you through like Ontario. You just fly from Atlanta to Ontario and back, and they'll transport you from the airport. It'll be great.
Fair enough. Okay. That said, jokes aside, I don't think I've seen anybody offer a higher amount than you. I've seen people speculate that people might pay more, but has anybody actually said I'll pay $101,000?
I heard somebody offer $150,000. I don't really know if that was real or not. I haven't seen anything offered above that. Just lots of angry people in my comments claiming that the card's worth a lot more, with nobody actually yet coming out and saying that they would pay substantially more.
I was asked blindly what I thought it was worth before I heard your bounty, and I did zero research, just went with my gut, and I said 125, 150 in my head. I mean, these are Olympic jerseys, not pro jerseys, that they're wearing, of course, in the card. It's not a pack-pulled card. It's a Topps Now card. There are little elements that go into that valuation that I think do matter, and I do think that we might see more of this combination on a card in the future with Topps in control of basketball licenses soon. So I don't think it was a crazy number, but I think it's stirred up a lot of attention. This is great for Topps. They've sold a billion cards, so I'm not mad about it.
What do you think, Teapot?
It's a great looking card.
It is a
really
great
cool card.
Yeah.
Would you pay $100,000 for it?
I need a new lawn. Like I have other things I'm worried about, but I did see. I think it was Card Creator 2000 or 3000 something on Instagram. Did their own version of this card as a superfractor. I think that would have been even cooler if it was a superfractor 1-of-1 with the autos on card. But it's a beautiful card, and it's one of a kind. Really, not just 1-of-1, but it's a one of a kind because it's the only Steph and LeBron auto.
Yeah.
You add KD onto it. I've heard people say, like we were talking about this, that it would have been better if Luka or somebody. Obviously, he's not Team USA, but was he the best third auto? Does it devalue it having KD? I think that's ridiculous. KD embodies U.S. men's Olympic basketball.
He actually has the most gold medals, the most.
Exactly.
I think it's fine KD's on there.
I think it's fantastic that he's
the comments
on
that I heard was it should have been just LeBron and Steph.
No.
And I disagree.
No, I disagree.
I disagree.
I think in this case it actually helps. We speculated on value, and I said, look, I could see this card like $75,000 as the absolute floor, but then I was trying to figure out comps. I look at triple logo man cards, and we saw like 300,000 plus for LeBron, Steph, and Luka as a triple logo man. Obviously, the $2.4 million LeBron triple logo man that happened, that was a total anomaly. But it's hard to comp it out, and ultimately, if it were to go to auction, it's down to the two people who want it the most and how high are they willing to go. That's nearly impossible to predict with a card like this. I do know the print runs are going to be insane. I ordered 10 of these. They get you with the little, marking it down by price. I'll probably just get 10 base cards. A parallel would be super pleasant.
Oh, it'd be amazing.
So I would love, I love the idea. My big question is, how many more autos in the future are they going to have with Steph and LeBron on the same auto? This won't be the last one. I hope they don't overdo it, but this won't be the last one. I'd worry about that with the value proposition long-term of the card. It's the first one, so that's got to count for something. And it's Team USA stuff, which I know you love. I think
that's why I love it. I collect USA basketball. That's why I really want the card. I think my personal opinion on it is there's a whole lot of people right now that are really hyped up about that card and its value because they just watched the gold medal game and they're feeling patriotic and they watched the Olympics. And my question is, how valuable is that card 2-3 years from now?
Right.
When that, we're way beyond that hype and that, I personally think $100,000 is a fair price for market value. People are saying it's $1 million card.
No
it's
way,
not $1
no
million.
way.
It's not $1 million card. It's not. Even a $500,000 card. It's not a $500,000 card. It's not going to have that type of cachet 3 years from now. Is it a $100,000 card? Yes. Is it a little more than $100,000? Maybe. If it goes to, here's the interesting thing though. You and I were talking about this. If it goes to open auction, what does it actually sell for? Who knows?
Right.
because it's what two bidders want to bid it up to, and that's all it is. If you got two people out there that believe it's $1 million card, then it becomes $1 million. If nobody's willing to go beyond $75K, then it's $75,000, right? It's where does it go, and you don't know. It's whoever's bidding that night and whatever check they're willing to write.
Yeah.
So I don't know, interesting,
Great
but
card.
I think it's really cool that Topps did. I think it's awesome that Topps did that. I hope we see more of that kind of stuff with Topps now in the future. Okay, speaking of Topps, we got a lawsuit to talk about this week, gentlemen. There's been so much happening in the sports card hobby. Topps has sued the seller of these misprinted superfractor cards. You guys might remember that back in last December, you were seeing these cards show up on eBay. I think we talked about it on the show.
Yeah, we did.
2023 Bowman Draft Superfractors, but they had the 1 of 1 on the back of the card instead of the front of the card, right? And the weird thing was some of these were duplicates. Some of these superfractors with the 1 of 1 on the front of the card had already been sold. Why is this one seller on eBay have all of these superfractors suddenly listed, which are incredibly hard to accumulate for anybody to accumulate more than 1 or 2? This guy had a ton of them, and they're all listed, but they're all the ones with the print defect with the 1 on the back of the card. Well, turns out, allegedly, he stole them from Topps factory. Turns out, allegedly, these were incorrectly printed, so they were put to the side to be destroyed. And instead of them getting destroyed, this person took them out of the factory or somehow got them from somebody at the factory and listed them all on eBay under this account, DFW Card Shark on eBay, sold $107,000 worth of cards through this account between the end of 2022 and the end of 2023 that Topps says he was not authorized to possess or sell, and they were obtained through unlawful means. So Topps is now sued for damages and attorney fees in the range of $250,000 to $1 million. Your take on this, Teapot?
Look, I really enjoyed working on the Dummies book. This guy's a dummy. And if I were going to write another book, I would want to do like a Darwin Award style book about all the dummies who commit fraud and scams with no intelligence whatsoever in the hobby, because there's no shortage of them. And in this case, like the whole thing was so stupid. DFW Card Shark, they figured out he lived in Dallas, Fort Worth, putting all these cards out there when people very quickly right away were like, yo, this product just released like last week. How do you have all of these already? And then he's fishy in his responses. This one did not take the many devoted and even at times obsessive internet sleuths long to figure this out. So
I think it's important we say this is all alleged. This is all according to Topps lawsuit.
Yeah,
we don't know for sure if what the situation is with this,
all
but
right, well, I'd be careful then. I'd not get myself into trouble. But
if Topps lawsuit's to be believed, then
this was shady. I guess it's fine to file a lawsuit. The big thing for me, and I said this back then when we originally talked about this topic, is quality control at the plant, right? And hopefully Topps saw this event and went in and said, all right, security and controls, what do we got to do here? If you misprint superfractors, they should either immediately or in the very least be monitored to walk them over to the shredder, which has multiple cameras on it with 2 people dumping them in and signing off that the superfractors were destroyed, and maybe even the remains come out and you have some kind of ceremonial party outside with them. I don't know, but get rid of them. Don't leave them hanging out in a bag where somebody, Timothy Dudd, can run off with them and list them on his eBay account and scam a bunch of people out of their money. So to me, that's the big thing. Keep them locked up. And then same thing if you have to print, sometimes they do print backup cards too, right? Like if an auto gets lost in the mail or something, they got to go back and get a secondary. That's how a lot of stuff from the 90s got backdoored. Put it in a locked vault. Nobody has access to it. The code is encrypted or something. And that's the only way you can get to it is if we absolutely need to. Not apparently like just some random person can just take these and run and list them. That's just got to be tightened up.
What do you think about
They
all
probably
this,
did
Doug?
that.
Yeah, I mean, I'm glad Topps is kind of doing this in somewhat of a public fashion. This lawsuit does bring it a little bit more public. We're seeing that the actions they are taking, and that will hopefully dissuade people from doing things like this in the future, because we talk about almost every week on this show something crazy that's happened and how we need this level of scrutiny in the hobby, and you've got to be more diligent and hold people accountable and things of this nature. That's what we need to see. We need to see people being held accountable for stuff like this. Hopefully, to make an example, don't do stupid stuff. And allegedly, this is one of the stupidest guys that I've ever seen. I mean, you've got your hands on these cards that nobody else could get your hands on. You put the city in your eBay name. You sell them all from one account. I can't wrap my head around how dumb this whole process was, allegedly. That's really what's
Well,
striking
that process was dumb.
That-
that was a fact. That happened.
That's really what's striking me the most is just how dumb this whole process was. And who's to say there wasn't a second individual involved? I find it really hard to believe that one person could have gotten away with this whole thing. The conspiracy theorist in me says more people were involved, that there were, a handful of other people that had to make this all come together. We've got the name of one alleged individual, but I wouldn't be surprised if there's another handful of people that, dip their toe here.
Well, speaking of people who did actually get away with something, we'll go to our final story of the day. There was a big theft at the National. We were worried about security at the National.
We talked about it. We had a whole show talking about it.
We did, coming off the big theft of the $2 million worth of cards at the Dallas card show that was stolen a couple of months ago. We went to the National, and the crazy thing is we got through the entire show without a major theft or issue as far as I know, none that was reported. And then it was at the very end of the show, I believe it in the loadout process, where a dealer had $275,000 in cash along with 2 iPads stored in a black briefcase. He put the briefcase in his car. Sounds like he didn't lock his car. This was during the move out process, so he's probably gone back into the show to get more stuff. And he's left the cash and an iPad in his briefcase, and he comes back out and the cash and the iPad are gone. Now, they looked at surveillance footage and they saw that there were a couple of people that went over to the car and opened the door and took the briefcase out and put it in their blue minivan and sped away. And all we apparently have right now is that police are looking for 2 people in a blue minivan. Good luck with that. Good luck with that. $275,000 in cash. Now, you may say, well, that was silly of him to not lock his car or to leave the cash unattended in his car. I think most people would probably think, that was a mistake. But does it mean that there were thieves, professional thieves maybe, at the National that were on the lookout for an opportunity to steal cash or cards, and they were surveilling, and then they found their opportunity and took advantage of it in this case? How does this make you feel? How does this make you feel, Teapot?
It makes me feel like we're headed toward a blockbuster Hollywood movie at some point. The Italian Job is just, like it's the next version. Jason Statham's going to be racing cards through a card show or something. But I mean, it makes me feel sick to my stomach anytime I hear about this. Yes, I saw Harrison had his Zion case like chained to his arm at the show, right? Like that's smart. And frankly, for me, I'm like hyper paranoid at all times with my cards in my little Zion case, and I'm like, I don't want anybody to see my code. I'm locking it every time I walk away. To set it down to even pull out cash, I'm like, I got to make sure this thing's not running off on me. Like hyper vigilance when it comes to that. If you talk about cash money, that it would have been in my hand the whole time. If you're alone, I guess that gets a little bit trickier. You got to lock the car if you walk away. I don't know, even then that'd make me nervous with the little smash window things and, dart and run, but just stinks. Yes, I do think there were probably thieves all over the place at a big show like that. Absolutely. I think they were everywhere. I'm sure people did have some stuff stolen that maybe we just haven't heard about, maybe smaller scale, picked off. Maybe some people don't even realize they lost money or a card, even still now. You never know, but it's hard to cover that stuff. I think security is going to be an ongoing issue at these big events, and the show organizers will have to keep thinking about that, but it's up to each of us, too, to be careful.
Yeah. Fair points. Fair points. Doug, what did you think when you first heard this news?
Yeah, well, you enlightened me a bit on something I didn't know. You said it was during the loadout process. So my initial reaction was pretty negative towards the individual. And I don't want to pile on to the guy who just got $275,000 stolen. I'm sure that's an absolutely horrific feeling. But in my head, I'm like, what are you doing? Leaving that kind of money in a car that happened to be unlocked. Even if you lock it, what are you doing leaving that kind of money in the car? But if it's during the loadout process, that makes a lot more sense because you're going to probably have to make trips. Something was going to get left in that car. It happened to be cash. So, I feel a little bit better about, not bashing this guy over this, right? But we talk about it almost every single week now, every single show. Not a week goes by, not a card show goes by where there's not some sort of theft or something to talk about. So yes, I'm confident that there were lower level thefts all across the show floor. I'm confident people got things stolen that they probably didn't even know they got stolen. Or just maybe they forgot they thought they forgot to track in their inventory process or something like that. I'm very confident that's happened. I'm glad we haven't heard anything large scale happening at the National as far as major cards being stolen, but this is even worse because you can't track this. They've got the cash and they're gone. There's no serial numbers of a PSA label to decertify. Like, they're just gone with the money, and there's nothing this guy's going to be able to do about that. And that's a terrible story. But, you know, it's like we keep saying week after week after week. Be diligent.
Be diligent.
Be diligent for each other. Hold each other accountable and things like that. It's really a tough situation, and I don't know how we stop something like this.
Yeah, that's all there is. I mean, more security around the shows. I will say, I know the National ramped up security in the show. I don't know if they had ramped up security outside of the show during loadout, but even in that scenario, like, there's only so much security is going to be able to do or catch. You know, somebody who leaves their car unlocked and someone grabs their briefcase. Unfortunately, we live in a world, we deal in a medium with small things that are easy to take, whether it's, you know, very valuable, small, tiny pieces of cardboard, or whether it's bags of cash. The two go hand in hand in our world, and it's all quite easy to take and quite valuable when somebody does. So it's a shame. Be diligent. It's all we can do.
Yeah.
All right. This was quite the episode today. I appreciate the sparring, gentlemen. I'm looking forward, kind of, to reading all of your comments in the YouTube, and I hope you are looking forward to that Arena Club slab pack drop, 1 p.m. Eastern, 10 a.m. Pacific tomorrow. Download the Arena Club app and use promo code SCI for 10% off. We'll see you soon with our next episode. Take care.
Don't scan boxes.